Recording. All right, just started recording. So now we have access to it, right? I mean, this isn't an example of like nesting components, but you know, React DOM is rendering this one, right? Now, I want to pass data to this thing, right? And we know if we were going to pass data to a normal function, right? So if I had any type of function, I would pass it as arguments, right? But in React, we pass it in as props. And by props is a kind of key, not a key value pair. It's like just creating a variable. It's almost like creating a variable. So say I wanted to change the name, color switcher app. I want to change that name and I want it to be like whatever it is that we want. I'm going to give it a new title. So I'm going to say here title. What's the title equal to? Well, the title is going to be equal to whatever I tell it to be equal to. And I'm going to say Joe's amazing app. Okay? Whatever it is. So now I'm going to pass it in. So when we do pass it in, we use curly braces. Now I'm going to remove the curly braces and let's just see if this thing flips out on me, right? No, it's working, right? So you'll see later the need to use curly braces and the need not to use curly braces here. Now that I'm passing in title, right, this is a prop, okay? So I'm just gonna put a note here that title equals, you know, Joe's amazing app. That's a prop, okay? That's one prop, okay? And a prop is just how we pass values between components, okay? And by between, I mean from parent to child. You're always passing data down. React is unidirectional, where data gets passed down, it flows downwards. We can lift state up, but we pass data down. So now I have this. I want to use this inside of app. All right, so if I go to app and I expand app here and I see here's this color scheme, first thing I want to do is just console log and say, hey, console log, I don't know, I passed down something called title, right? This is title. Let's see if title is here. All right, so if I do title, I go to console, now it's erroring. It's like, whoa, something's wrong, cross origin thrown, right? I can't access it as title anyway. Title's not going to work, right? So I'm back. It's working, right? Does anyone know what we need to do to this functional component to accept props?
I would assume the function needs some sort of parameter.
Correct. It needs a parameter, right? I mean, it is, in essence, it truly is a function, correct? It's a function, and functions need to be passed things, correct? So when we pass something here, we have to put a placeholder. And the standard placeholder is truly props. Like, that's the naming convention that we use. Props, that's what we're passing down. That's the concept. So now, instead of saying, you know, this is title, I'm just going to say this is props. And let's see props. Boom. I'm going to go back to my console. And look, inside props, I see that I have this object. So what React does is it takes whatever values you give it and it turns it into an object of key value pairs. And objects are really, really efficient in aggregating data that's in essence related to one another. Like, I mean, we're all objects. I'm an object, my phone's an object, my laptop's an object. All of these things have common keys and their values would change, right? My height is going to be different than your height, or my eye color may be similar but different, right? Or we all right now have eyes because we're looking at the screen, right? We all have ears and we all can talk. So we all have these common keys that have values to them, right? And so we could aggregate all of those into an object. And so what React does is it takes all of the things that you pass it and it aggregates it into an object. Okay, no matter how many things we pass, we would be able to find them inside this object. And being that it's in an object, if I wanted access to the title, then I would just do props here dot title. And now I have access to the thing, right? The value stored inside title. Now, if I want to use it here inside of this return, right? And inside of return, right? Inside of return is JSX, right? JSX is what's inside of there. So, and there were a few things that we discussed last week in regards to JSX and their requirements. Can anyone tell me maybe one thing about JSX that we have to keep in mind inside of this return?
It's not an HTML.
What's that?
It's not HTML.
Yeah, it's not HTML. Yeah, it's kind of like XML. Yeah. So that being said, so you're right on track. It's not HTML. So what does that mean? If it was XML type content, what does that mean?
Everything needs a closing tag?
Yes, everything needs a closing tag, right? Closing tag. That's one of the most important things. What's one of the other ones?
That it can only return one top-level object.
Yes, can only return one top-level element, HTML element. And that top-level element can have millions and millions of things inside of it, or render a child that renders another child that perpetually goes on forever, right? Is there anything else?
Classes need
Class.
to be class name.
Yep, classes are now class name, right? Class is a reserved word, so we have to call it class name. Okay. I think that was what we did cover, right? We covered that specifically for props. Now, when we reference these variables inside of here, right? I'm able to console log this up here, and that you can see that came out pretty fine right there. But what if I wanted to reference that in here? If I was to say, hey, props.title. All right, well, that's not really what I want to see, right? I don't want to see props.title. I'm going to turn blue. Oh, look, it actually works. I don't want to see that. I want to see the name that was here, right? And so what we need to do here is wrap this in curly braces. All right? Doing that gives us our title. Okay, so I'm going to add that just as the last thing. That I'm going to say variables, right? Or objects or Java's JS code. Here we go. JS code needs to be wrapped in curlies, okay? Has to be wrapped in the curlies. So in order to access it, and we still need to access it as this object with a title property, right? Okay. So now that we have it, and you can see that it took effect, I want to, as of right now, I have, these LIs, and I would like to maybe pass in the data for these things. And the data is like gray, white, light blue, and light green. These are the data elements, okay? So I'm going to say I want to pass to app additional information. So what I'm going to do here is, let's do this, inside source. I'll do this. I'll create a file inside source, and I'm going to call this data.js, okay? And inside data.js, I'm going to create an array of colors. So I will say const colors is equal to just an array of colors. I think it was white. I think it was gray as in AY. Let me just say gray as in AY. Sometimes I misspell it. Light blue, light green, right? So I have my data array here, This colors, this string goes this side. Yeah, it just never used. That's fine. And I need to export this, right? So I have colors. It's an array, and I'm going to say, hey, export default colors. Okay. So I'll just export default colors. I'll export the array. I mean, I could have just exported the array. I could have export default is equal to that. Now I have this array of colors. I'm going to go back to app, and in app, I'm going to import. And I'm going to say colors, color array from, oh, you know what? I'm not doing it in app. I'm going to do it in index. So that's where we're at right here. So I'm going to do that here. Import color array from data. All right. That should work. Saying it's used, declared, but never used. All right. Now I want to add it here. I want to pass it. So as I start to pass more and more props, I don't, doing it on the horizontal just gets really overwhelming seeing these things. So I'm going to, if I was to restructure my app, I'd probably do something like this, or restructure my components. I would do something more like that, where I split them on different lines so they're easier to read. Kind of like when you have an object, just like if I was to have an object, right? Oh, obj is equal to, name, Joe, having them on, age, I don't know, I am forever 21, right? And the longer you do this, the more, the more unreadable it kind of gets. Having them on separate lines just always makes it easier to read, right? That's just the way it is. So on this, I'm going to go to another line, and I'm going to say colors array, right, is equal to, and now if I was just to do color array, right, here I go, I'm going to do color array, we would error out. All right, hey, you can't do this. You're trying to pass in a variable. This is JSX. That's not going to work. So I would do that. And now I can pass it in. Colors, actually I'm going to call it colors array. It just seems more appropriate. Colors array. All right. So now I'm passing in. I'm passing two things. Two things got passed to the app. I'm going to go back to the app. Let's take a look. I am console logging stuff in this app. I was only console logging title here before. I left it off title, but now I'm going to console log props again, and now I have two things. I have an array, and I have color array. I'm sorry, title and color array. So I have two things. You can pass as many things as you want. And what React says is, oh, if you give me this stuff, I will package it. Whatever you give me, I'm going to put it into an array, and I'm going to put it into an object and pass it as one thing, one object with all these key value pairs, okay? And so now I'm here, I have access to it. If I'm wanted access to just the colors array, I could get access just to those colors, okay? Now that I have the colors array, what would I want to do with this colors array? I have these items here, and I would like to map over those items. I would like to iterate over this array, and from that array, create these items, right? Create the items that I need. So we don't want to do that in the return, right? I mean, I guess we could if we put curly braces, but that's not something that I really would like to do. So I would do something like create a variable. So I would say maybe cons colors, I don't know, I'll call it colors array again, is equal to props dot colors array dot map. And I think you saw this in the pre-work. Was that done in the pre-work? Does anybody remember if map was done? Was it? Okay. And so map is a JavaScript array iterator. Okay. It takes 3 parameters, of which we are only going to use 2. And now I have this thing created, and I'm using the fat arrow syntax, to create it, okay? Does anyone know, so map is iterated. Can anyone explain what map does that's different than, say, one of the other iterators in JavaScript? So how is map different than...
It returns new array.
Okay, it does return a new array. And its intent is to do what? Like, why would you use map versus for each?
Map, sorry, go ahead, Ian.
No, it's okay. Never mind.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say map transforms each item in an array based on whatever function you pass to it.
Okay. So what does for each do?
It does that, but does not, sorry, I'm coming from Java land, so I'm just trying to translate what those things do in Java. For each is just like an iterator, like it doesn't return it doesn't return an array back to you, whereas map will give you an array that has each element which has undergone whatever function has been passed to it.
Yeah, so the intent of a map is to actually kind of mutate each element, right? It's not like a filter method, like React also, JavaScript also has .filter, which is meant to filter, which is meant to return a new array, but a subset of the array. Right? You're looking for something, you're looking to filter. Map says, I want to touch everything, and I want you to do something to the thing that you touch. And then I want you to return everything back to me, but a mutated version of it, right? And so here we have 4 LIs that would be great. Like we could create 4 new LIs if we wanted to. So in here we could say return, and we would have to tell it what to return. Well, I want to return an LI. Awesome. Okay. If we just return empty LIs, well, we're just going to get an empty thing. Now, I see down here that they have class names. See, class name white, gray, light blue, light green. And those were the names that I gave the array. So what if I was to say here, oh, I'm going to return this thing, and I will call it class name is equal to, and because it's JSX, we're going to do curly brace D. I'm going to give it D. Boom. Now, I call this, I work with D3 a lot. So I do mention D3, and it's a data visualization library. And the creator of D3, Mike Bostock, when he created it, when he maps through things, he always uses D and I, D being the element, data, I representing index. But you can call them whatever you want. You could call it element and index, element and position, thing and spot, whatever it is that you want to call it, doesn't matter. But they are position-based, which means I always need a D regardless, because if I ever want to get to I need to put something before it because it's position based. All right, it's always going to take the first thing as the element, the second one as its position. Okay, so I'm able to do this, and now I have this colors array. It's still telling me, hey, you know, it's declared, but it's never used. I get you. I'm on to you. So I have this class name. Now I want to use this. I want to render this array. And once again, I know that this thing has stuff in it, and I'm going to say console log and say, you know, this is colors array, right? And let's take a look and say colors array, and let's see what we got. All right, so I have this thing of objects, and if I take a look, I see that it gave me back kind of maybe more than what I would have expected. I'm only returning LIs, and yet I'm seeing that it's giving me an object. All right, I thought I was only returning an LI. If I map through something, sometimes I do go out of my way to create an object to return, but I'm not doing that here. What React is saying is, hey, you know what? I see that you're mapping through something and you're returning, and in the world of React, well, I kind of step in. I step in and say, everything that you return is now an object. So it creates this object. It gave it a type. It also has this key. And the key is important because in React, React is kind of watching all of the elements. And one of the things with React is why it kind of took off too, or was invented in the first place, was, you know, reusable components, but performance, because it creates a virtual DOM. A virtual DOM. And that virtual DOM is, you know, if I go to React DevTools, I see that there's this app. I mean, we only have one thing, and this is the kind of the React's way of viewing the DOM. But what it does is it creates this virtual space, and it kind of has this diffing tool to manage when things get changed. Should I update the thing? What should I do? So one thing that we have to be aware of when we use this, we will need a key. Keys are going to be important. I'm going to try adding this here anyway. Let's just see if it screams at me and says we need a key. And then we'll go back and add the key. So I want to get rid of these. If I get rid of them, I get rid of everything, right? Everything's gone. Now I want to use that array, colors array here. And so if I go here and I say colors array, I get them back, but I'm getting this message. This is the message I get, warning, right? Here we go. Where's our channel? There. I'm getting that warning. Warning, each child should have a unique key property, okay? So what I need to do, and once again, this is just a warning. I mean, the app still works, nothing's broken, but it is a warning, and it's a warning we should heed. When we do this, we need to give it a key. Now, the key needs to be unique, and the one thing that we can guarantee that is unique is its index position, right? Every element is at a unique position in the array. If they're at unique positions, then the value returned is always going to be unique. So we can't go wrong with this. Sometimes people combine it with the name of the element and the index. However it is, a simple I would do. You wouldn't need more than an I to resolve that problem, okay? And so now we have our working app, right? Our app looks good. The colors are there. And so passing props allows us to move data between the components, or better said, pass them down to their children components. Okay, and right now, index is rendering app, right? It's rendering app, so we are passing these values down, and then app is using those values. And in order to use them, we need to have the props keyword, right? Here. I think mentioned I forgot who mentioned it in class the other day and asked, like, why wouldn't we put this inside of a variable? So we could have written this function instead of using the function keyword. I could have said const app is equal to props, and I could have written it like this also. Once again, the fat arrow syntax, CS6. If there's only one thing being passed, I could also have kind of shorthanded it like that, right? Looks like pretty clean code to do that, all right? So I have the app, I pass down props. Awesome. Any questions on props? Any questions on passing things down as props? Anything kind of pop out? Okay. So, based on that, I'm going to slack out the lab. It's now kind of lab time for you to work on stuff. Let me select this out. All right. Lab. Working with props. All right. So here it is. I'm going to open it up here. Lab passing props, that's going to be the lab. I have what I'd like you to do, and it's very similar to what we did, okay? So what we just did is kind of like what I'm aiming for you to do at this point. And the same thing, create a separate file called data, and inside the data file, create an array called list items, and use export default to export the list items, import the array into index, passes props the array of list items, passes prop a new name of the to-do list, you can give it your name, and then configure the app component to accept the props, map over the array, and create the new spans. Okay, this involves adding the list item info where needed, remove the existing to-dos, and then replace them. So if we take a look at the app right here, should say, it's a to-do list that we're going to be creating. In the Zoom, can you increase the volume a bit? I can. Let me see. Just got a request to increase the volume, so I just want to see my volume. Okay, video settings. Let me just go to speaker test mic. All right. I'm trying to put it as high as I can. All right. Here's the app. This is what you have. We're going to be doing a to-do list, and we're going to use this to-do list is going to get us a lot of the React fundamentals in regards to adding items, editing items, deleting items, making an API call to pull the items, and use React lifecycle methods to make the API call to update. So if we take a look here, here's index, and index is rendering app. Can we guess where app is? You guessed it, inside components. Here's app. Guess what? This is the app. Now there's a lot more seemingly going on here than the color switcher, but the to-do list items are here, right? There's 2 of them, and they're rendered in the list items. So the UL I was working with and the LI's pretty clean. Wasn't a lot going on here. Here's a bit more. Don't be scared of the bit more. It's really just rendering this thing. That's really all you have to do. You're rendering the same thing, and all you have to do is do the classes need to be class names. When I copied this over, I forgot to add the classes and turn them into class names, but React is kind of working. It's not screaming at us. It's not breaking, and I'll go ahead and we'll rename these. So when you do it, rename all the classes to class names, but focus in on doing what we just did with the list items, okay? So if we have all of our list items right here, here's one to-do item, here's our second to-do, and then our items list, okay? That makes sense? Any questions? Now, what I wanted to do is create breakout rooms, and so you can work out in breakout rooms, and if you need to discuss things with someone, you have someone to talk to, and this is also an opportunity to get to know each other. If you need some help, reach out, and either myself or Abdul will jump into the room. I'm going to say, what if I ask Sylvia, how long do you think it would take to get this done? What's your thoughts? Yeah, everyone get ready to like jump off of mute any moment. All right. I think you're on, I can't hear you. So, let's see. All right. Well, hold up on Sylvia. Gustavo, what about you? How long do you think?
Sorry, I just switched tabs in order to unmute
No,
myself. Hold on a
that's
second.
cool. Remember, we're doing almost exactly what we just did, or exactly what we just did. What do you think?
I'm a consultant, so I'm going to give you a much higher estimate than I think we probably
Yeah,
need.
you're going to buffer it, right? All right, and then I'll just chop that in half. So give me whatever you're going to give me, and I'm going to chop it in half.
20 to 30 probably is a upper limit.
All right, I'll do that. 15 minutes. I'll give you 15 minutes. We'll have a checkpoint. Once again, you're going to be paired, so you're going to be able to talk it through. So I'm going to give you about 15 minutes. And once again, pairs, walk it through. I'll have some checkpoints here, and you'll click on the thumbs up when you're done. So let me create the breakout rooms, okay? So breakout rooms, getting 2 participants per breakout room, 2 to 3. All right, so here we go. 1 to 2. I'm going to create the breakout rooms, and you should get something with the breakout rooms. Actually, let me do this manually. Hold on. Create the breakout rooms and assign tool. Here we go. Connor. All right. Let's see. There we go. You know what? There we go. Recreate all the breakout rooms. I think I need more breakout rooms. Recreate. All right. Give me 1 sec. All right. Side, boom, boom. All right, any second now.
Joe,
Yep,
can I ask you a quick question?
sure, yeah.
So when you append colors A or R in the JSX,
Mhm.
since you're basically putting the array with object, shouldn't the HTML side print like commas also?
Oh, you mean here on line 33?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, remember, it's producing this object. The fact that it's taken what I had given it and turned it into an object means it's taking it even further and saying, oh, this object is really an HTML element. So is this object. So is that one. And so is that one. So I will render them as the actual elements they are.
Oh,
Right?
okay. Got it.
This is React's magic under the hood. Okay, so
Oh,
we
gotcha.
may see it as an array, but it's an array of objects that got converted via React anyway. It was like, that was like magic in the first place.
Got it.
Okay,
Is-
so I'm going to open all the rooms, jump in, and Abdul, I'm going to, hey, Abdul, don't jump in the room yet. I'm going to make you the co-host. So you can. Yeah. So Abdul, as co-host, you can, I think you can jump into any room you want. Is that correct?
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Okay, sweet.
So should I join this room? I'll join.
Yeah, if you want to join the room, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So everyone should have gotten an invite. I think Ramona and Sylvia is still there. Did you get an invite? Okay. And sweet. iPad. Whose iPad? iPad's just hanging out there. Forgot whose iPad again. Okay. Kalavani, is anyone having issues?